Are you stuck on dairy? You've been heavy on dairy your whole life and have gotten used to lathering your toast, baked potatoes, and pancakes with butter. So now you need a replacement. What can you use? You've noticed different commercial plant-based butter products sold at the grocery store. The question is, should you use these or are there other alternatives? I'm here to tell you that there are indeed other options, so you don't need to rely on using commercial plant-based butter substitutes in your meals or in baking. In this episode, I want to share natural, healthier whole food plant-based substitutes you can try instead. Ready? Let's dive in. Welcome to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Anna Zinn, plant-based registered dietitian and transition coach. Hi friend, do you want to regain your health with plant-based eating but feel overwhelmed and lost about how to do it? Do you feel it'll be hard to change your meat-heavy diet and impossible with working, running the home, or chasing after the grandkids? If so, you're in the right place. Here you'll find simple strategies, clear nutrition guidance, and practical tips to help you thrive plant-powered with more energy. So if you're ready to ditch the guesswork and transform your health the stress-free way, cozy up now with a hot cup of tea or listen while you walk, and let me show you how doable plant-based eating can be. Let's do this. I want to first thank a listener with Apple ID MSB1805 for her 5-star review of the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. This listener wrote, "You make it simple to understand. Thank you for breaking it down so easily. I have looked into plant-based eating many times, but it seems overwhelming sometimes. I love how you break down small components so I can quote-unquote digest it more easily. See what I did there? Thank you. I can't wait for more." Thank you so much, MSB1805, for your sweet, positive review. It really lit up my day and put a big smile on my face. I love your play on words. I'm encouraged to know that this podcast has helped to break down the plant-based diet transition for you into more manageable parts that are easy to implement and takes away the overwhelm. Continue to listen and let's transform your health one step at a time. Friend, help me support more people like MSB1805 and let's change lives into healthier ones, one listener at a time. Simply support this podcast by leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. If you have an Apple device, find the Apple Podcasts app icon. It's a purple square with white circles. Open it, then search for Plant-Based Eating Made Easy. Once there, scroll all the way down past the 5-star symbols, then click on Write a Review. Leave a star rating, write your review, and then tap Send. You can also leave a review if you have iTunes downloaded onto your PC computer. Tell me how this podcast is helping you in your plant-based diet transition and journey towards the best health. Thank you for supporting the podcast in this way. Now let's dive into natural plant-based butter substitutes. If you have already started making the switch from meats to plants by cutting down or cutting out meats, I want to applaud you. That's a great step forward. And I want to continue to support you in your diet transition. So let's begin to tackle dairy. Some dairy items are indeed easier to swap out, like changing out the cow's milk in your coffee or morning cereal. In this case, you can simply use a plant-based milk alternative, like organic fortified soy milk or an unsweetened calcium-fortified almond milk. But other dairy products can seem trickier to substitute, like cheese and butter. There are many benefits to swapping out butter, not just because you're making the switch from meats to plants. It's a great choice to make if you also want to better your heart health. That's because just 1 tablespoon of butter already gives you 102 calories, 11.5 grams of fat, over 30 milligrams of cholesterol, and 7.3 grams of saturated fat. So though you'll be getting minuscule amounts of vitamins and minerals from butter, you'll be getting more than a third of the daily value of saturated fat for a person eating 2,000 calories a day. And that's from only 1 tablespoon of butter. Of course, there are now many commercial plant-based cheese and butter alternatives sold. But just because they are available and at a local store near you doesn't mean these are automatically the best option to buy or the healthiest. That's because plant-based commercial cheeses made with coconut oils can often contain quite a bit of sodium, saturated fat, and other additives. While plant-based butter products are generally manufactured using oils that have undergone manufacturing processes to hydrogenate the oils to a certain degree in order to harden them into a more solid state. Think of margarines, which are made from vegetable oils and other non-dairy butter substitutes. These products don't contain much nutrients, are a source of unneeded calories, and could also be sources of trans fat, which are harmful for heart health. That's why I wanted to do this episode, to give you some healthier, more natural whole food plant-based alternatives that you can consider trying, in both baking and to enhance meals. Let's see what these are. Let's talk spreads first. If you are used to a morning piece of toast, what can you now spread on your bread instead of butter? Here are 2 options you could try. One is to mash up some avocado and spread that on the piece of whole wheat toast instead. Because of the creamy, buttery texture of the mashed avocado, this can create a satisfying spread for your breakfast meal. Another option is to use a nut or seed butter instead on your toast, waffles, or pancakes. For example, you could use almond butter, hazelnut butter, or cashew butter as a spread instead. If you have a nut allergy, you could use a sunflower seed butter or pumpkin seed butter as an alternative. Now let's touch on possible substitutes for butter in baking. There are actually plenty. One option would be unsweetened applesauce. I use this a lot when swapping out the oil and butter in the recipe I'm turning plant-based. It adds a nice little natural sweetness to a recipe too. You would just substitute 1:1 for the amount of butter a recipe calls for. Another option is plain pumpkin puree. No, this is not the kind that says canned pumpkin pie puree, but just plain pumpkin puree. You can actually cook and make your own pumpkin puree from kabocha squash or sugar pumpkins, or just buy a can of pumpkin puree to use in your recipe. Pumpkin puree functions as a great substitute like applesauce for butter, but with one difference. When a recipe asks for using 1 cup of butter, you need to substitute that with just 3/4 of a cup of pumpkin puree instead of using a full cup. Let's look at baked potatoes now and what you could use as an alternative to butter or sour cream. Back when I was on a regular diet, I never used that much butter on my foods, but sometimes would use it when making pie recipes or to flavor baked potatoes. Well, then after moving to a plant-based diet, I remember being at a loss at first in terms of what to use. Initially, I used some commercial plant-based butter as a substitute, but then I started to experiment. Did you know? A bit of salsa on a baked potato is actually delicious. Pair that with some cooked or canned unsalted black beans, and you've got a simple yet filling meal. But know that store-bought salsa can contain quite a bit of sodium, so only use a small amount. Even better, make your own fresh salsa at home using tomatoes or even other fruits like mangoes, and enjoy that on your baked potato. This way, you can customize the salsa to how you like it and control the amount of salt you want to use in the salsa. Now, if you don't like salsa, another alternative is to try some guacamole instead. Our family also often enjoys a delicious savory lentil and butternut squash mix over baked potatoes. I saute sliced onions, bell peppers, and grated butternut squash together, then add cooked lentils and use seasonings like balsamic vinegar, onion powder, ground black pepper, a splash of soy sauce, and some nutritional yeast for a hint of plant-based cheesiness. So for baked potatoes, instead of the usual butter or sour cream, don't be afraid to explore and try a new topping on your foods, Try something completely different, and you might be pleasantly surprised. So today we looked at some top natural whole food plant-based options you can use to substitute for butter for breakfast meals, in baking, and as toppings. The benefit of using a whole food plant-based option is that you will get much more nutrients like vitamins and minerals into your meals compared to just using butter. It will also be better in the long run for heart health. The key is to not be afraid to experiment and to explore different options. Now, if you're just starting your diet transition and really crave a bit of butter in your foods, you can use a plant-based commercial butter alternative for a short time initially, but do treat it more as just a transitional food. Then, actively seek to try more natural, whole food plant-based options like the ones I have mentioned here. Remember, if you really want to achieve optimal health, always look for whole food plant-based food versions as substitutes for your meat and dairy products where possible. Now here's a simple action step you can take. Pick one of these natural plant-based butter substitute options suggested in this episode and give it a try this coming week. I hope this episode helps you. Today, I only gave a few options for butter substitutes, but there are many more delicious alternatives and substitutes available for meats and other animal-based products. If you want to learn more essential skills and knowledge about plant-based eating, smart time and money-saving strategies, kitchen prep hacks, meal ideas, and easy plant-based recipes, check out the Plant-Powered Life Transformation course. Get details of this course at plantnourish.com/PPLT course or see the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. If this podcast has helped you, please take a moment to rate and leave a written review on the Apple Podcast app or on iTunes. Knowing how this podcast has made a difference in your life never fails to light me up. I may also select your review to be read on the show. Remember that moving to plant-based eating can be simple and doable, even with your existing health challenges and busy lifestyle. If you have a plant-based diet question you'd like me to answer on this show, share that question with me using the contact options in the show notes. Thanks for joining me today, and I can't wait to connect with you again in the next episode. Until next time, keep plant-focused and thriving, my friend.